What the Air Force is trying to do is they're trying to target some highly skilled AFSCs that have a significant training requirements and bills to pay, and where the manning is getting a little bit low. And so what they want to do is retain those airmen to not only do the mission, but to also train new airmen that come into the Air Force to do those specialized jobs. And so what you can do is you can request up to a 2-year, high-year tenure extension to go ahead and stay in the Air Force for an additional 2 more years. And really the career fields that they're targeting are things like cyber, intelligence, maintenance, and special operations. Obviously some of those with a lot of training requirements. And if you qualify, again, you can get up to 2-year extension. And so you can do that from right now all the way till 31 May 2018. And then you can do that on the MyPERS website and just submit your application. If you're approved, you get 2 years. Yeah, so I think this is a great initiative that the Secretary of the Air Force came up with. So the bottom line is she thinks that we have too many publications and they're too directed. And I think when you look at the Air Force, we always talk about centralized control and decentralized execution. I think this sort of gets right at that. So we're not going to relinquish any kind of command and control pieces, but we want to allow the folks that are doing the mission to do it as they see fit in the best way, using their judgment, experience to do that. And I think when you look at when we're trying to develop innovative airmen, right? Sometimes they have great ideas on here's how we should do task X, but they're hamstrung by regulations that prevent them from being creative and innovative and doing things that are more efficient and better for the mission. So that's really the goal. And so over the next 24 months, the Secretary of the Air Force is going to take that on to go ahead and reduce those. And then there's multiple parts to it. One is obviously to make the publications that stick around shorter and with more clarity. And then the ones that are gone, the idea is that we can't just reproduce those at lower levels. So if you see like a half AFI, for example, a lot of times there'll be a MAJCOM supplement to it, and then there'll be a base supplement to it. And so the idea is if they get rid of them, they're gone. So we're not going to make those at different levels just to kind of reinvent it at a lower level. And again, I think the idea is to put the decisions and the waivers in the hands of the folks at the lowest level that know their job the best. And so and they want us to participate. So it's not every airman's job to look at regulations and review them, but they're going to ask for your input. And so I'd encourage you to do that. So if you've got some good ideas, they'll send out a survey. I would say participate, and if you got some ideas, put those on the table, and we'll see where they go. And I think, organizationally, when you think about like, the wing, it's kind of like this, triangle, right? Okay. So this me at the top, right? And then down at the bottom you've got obviously more people, guys doing the work down here at the bottom, kind of where my thumbs are down here. But the problem is the decision authority on waivers is, kind of up here at me, and then obviously it goes up to headquarters potentially. But the guys that are doing the work, they're down here. So they have all the knowledge, right? So what we want to do is drive that down to them so they can make appropriate decisions, and we're not up here trying to make decisions on waivers and eliminating AFIs at the top. So I think it's a great thing for the Air Force. At times they're, I think they're hamstrung by the regulations, and I think sometimes it breeds a little bit of cynicism in a way because we ask them to do so many things, and sometimes the regs are quite frankly conflicting, and they come from different functional organizations that aren't really getting it done. So I think it'll be great for them to have an opportunity to change that. Obviously, this kind of shout out to our 447th deployed forces out there. If you look out on the ramp or you get up in the morning, you see the A-10s taking off all the time. Those are A-10Cs. So on the 7th of August 2007, Lieutenant Colonel Sam Milan, who was the commander of the 75th Fighter Squadron, took off in the first A-10C Thunderbolt II, or the Hog as they call it, and took it to its new home in Moody, and that was the first of 50 A-10Cs. So when you look at the A-10, it looks like the same airplane they built back in the 70s, but it's obviously been seriously upgraded. The A-10C is definitely an improvement. On 11th August, 956 heavy bombers from the 8th Air Force, along with 578 fighters, took off and attacked transportation facilities and military targets in France. And that was really kind of the leading edge of liberation, which happened a couple weeks later of Paris on the 25th of August. So again, 956 bombers and 578 fighters. So to kind of put that in perspective. So right now we have about 180 F-15s and we have about 180 F-22s. So that would be kind of your escort fighters. So that's 360. And then when you look at the bombers, we have about 75 B-2s and about 60 B-1s and 20 B-2s. So 155 bombers. So we can only produce a little more than half of those fighters today if we launched every airplane in the fleet. And then, of course, the bombers, that's about a little over 10% of what they flew that day. This is about my youngest son, Drew.
Okay.
So on 8 August 2005, he was born, and I almost named him Dennis. And I'll tell you why, because we lived in Florida, and there was a Hurricane Dennis, and so I just kind of finished his room, you know, kind of put a chair rail up, painted the walls and all that kind of stuff, got his bed, you know, all put together and all of his furniture in there for our new baby that was on the way. And then we got hit by Hurricane Dennis, so our house flooded. So, yeah, so then we were, you know, had to rip out the walls, the carpet and all that. So we're living, my wife and I and my older son are living in an RV out in the driveway because we've got like dehumidifiers all over the house and stuff.
All time.
Yeah, and so but the problem is it was like overwhelming the electrical circuits in the house. So for about every hour, the main breaker of the house would just go out. So I would sleep in this RV and I would wake up because there was a little light on the front of that RV that would just go out when the breaker would go out. And so that would I would know it was when the light was out. I would have to get up. I'd go flip the breaker, go turn on the dehumidifiers, come back out in the RV. And of course, my wife, she's 7 months pregnant at the time, and so it's something that's fun to look back on. But boy, it was tough at the time. But anyway, so my boy Drew turned 12 on Tuesday. So in Syria this past week, we had 114 strikes and 129 targets that were damaged or destroyed. And then in Iraq, we had 42 strikes and 63 targets that were damaged or destroyed. So in total, about 150 strike missions and nearly 200 targets that were serviced as a part of the war effort. So pretty good week for us. Looking forward to the senior NCO induction ceremony tonight. So the social hour is 1800 and 1900 to start for the kind of the formal dinner part of that. So if you're looking to have something to do this evening, I'd encourage you to do that. It'll be good to welcome quite a few folks to the top 3 ranks in the Air Force.